Stan was obsessed with the beach.
Beach! Beach! Beach!
The moment he rushed into the sea, he saw several people playing with jet boots. Stan immediately called Steve over to join them, but Steve was terrified. He was always worried there might be sharks in the water. To prove there was no danger, Stan swallowed an entire bucket of sand, only to pass out the next second. Fortunately, Roger revived him with an even more intense CPR.
Have a little kiss on your chin. Mwah. How about your belly? Mwah. And what's this? Oh, hello. Mwah.
To help Steve overcome his fear of sharks, Stan took him straight out to the middle of the ocean. Steve was scared out of his wits, but Stan suddenly pushed him into the water. Just then, Steve saw a shark swimming straight toward him. What he didn't know was that it was actually Roger in disguise. Steve was horrified by the sudden attack. Roger left after finishing his part, and Stan excitedly congratulated Steve on conquering his fear. But Steve turned around and mocked the shark for being a coward, which angered Roger, who bit off Steve's arm. Stan was petrified. At the hospital, he forced Roger to spit out Steve's arm, but as Stan was about to reattach it, Steve thought his wound was a symbol of courage, so Stan secretly hid the arm. From then on, Steve began to take on even more extreme and daring stunts. The two of them even jumped off a cliff together. Stan really loved how confident Steve had become. That night, they climbed up a bridge. Steve walked along the edge. Roger thought Steve had lost control, but Stan thought he was doing great. Then Steve started performing all kinds of dangerous stunts, and Stan was very proud. But after that, Steve's behavior became more and more extreme. He started fights at the drop of a hat, and even when he got beaten up, Steve just kept laughing. Realizing how serious things had gotten, Stan tried to bring Steve to his senses, but Steve was convinced he was now the bravest man alive. Stan had no choice but to confess the whole truth. Steve fainted on the spot after learning the truth. Later, when Stan went to the hospital to visit his son, Steve had disappeared without a trace.
Where'd my son go?
He said something about living a lie and needing to conquer his fear by killing a shark.